Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga, Gaura Hare, Nitai Gauranga, Gaura Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada.
blessings of her graduate chariot, Penistismat, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, Iskan Swamacharya Srila Prabhupada Ki, Anant Kodi Vaishnava Vrinda Ki, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki, Prem Se Gahas Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki, Shishi Radha Krishna Gop Gopinath Shamkund Radhakund Giri Govardhan Ki, Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki, Shri Mayapur Dham Ki, Shri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki, Shishi Gaunitai Ki, Srila Prabhupada Ki, Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki, Gaur Premanande. All glories to their assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Devotees and friends and family members and Her Grace Soumya Devi Dasi and Kavya Prabhu. Am I right in guessing that you are Kavya Prabhu? Hare Krishna. Nice to meet you. I don't know if we've met before. I probably have, yes. That's very nice. Thank you for having us, and thank you for putting on this very, very nice program and just providing wonderful and very suitable facilities. So what we will do now, the deities who have just been, as we saw, they were just bathed in all sorts of auspicious substances. Panch Amrita, 5 types of nectars were used, milk, yogurt, ghee, honey, and sweet water, sugary water, and then juices and things like that. And now they're being dressed. And shortly they'll be ready to receive, well, I think inside, I assume, they'll be receiving their first, what we call bhoga offering. Bhoga meaning food, which has not already been offered to the Lord. Then once it's offered, it becomes prasad, which means mercy. So the mercy of the Lord. After that, they'll come out and they'll go here just on my immediate left, and they'll be offered their first arati ceremony. And then, of course, the deity forms of the Lord, they're always worshipable. They're always worthy of worship and can be worshipped and will accept the worship, actually. But when they have been, here we use the term welcomed, greeted, received appropriately. Yes, bathed like that with mantras. Then the deity form of the Lord is even more ready to receive worship and will reciprocate with the devotees, with Kavir and Somya, and I think Keshav is the son's, Keshav, right? Keshav. Okay, good. And Sonera, am I right? Sonera. Yes, well, Sonera, some of you may know, maybe those who gave her the name may know. Sonera is a not very famous, but very wonderful pilgrimage place in the Vrindavan area, just near to Varshana, the place of Srimati Radharani, is the village, small village, but nice village, of Sonera. Did you know that, Sonera? They named a village after you. Anyway, and that is the birthplace of one of the gopis named Sudevi, who's one of the very close associates, personal friends of Srimati Radharani, Sonera. We must take you there sometime, Sonera. Okay, in the meantime though, as the deities are being prepared, cleaned and dressed, yes, then receiving their first bhoga offering. So we'll say a few words. We'll read something from Srimad Bhagavatam. And incidentally, I see Smita Krishna Prabhu, this is him over here, you see, distributing the little fruit garlands, right? Yes. So they are not bhoga, if you remember bhoga, that food which has not been offered, but they are now prasad, because they are food that has been offered to the Lord. So if you happen to get one land on your lap, then yes, it's special. It's very sacred. And in due course, you can eat it, and it will be spiritually beneficial, as long as being very tasty also. So, devotees and friends, I'm going to read a very important verse from Srimad Bhagavatam. It is Srimad Bhagavatam, 2nd canto, chapter 3, which is called Pure Devotional Service, the Change in Heart. And I'm going to read verse 22, which is talking about deity worship at home, done by devotees in their house, not in the sort of formal official temple, but at home in the temple room at home. So yes, 2nd canto, chapter 3, verse 22, Srimad Bhagavatam. First of all, though, just repeat after me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 You know, I think the majority, at least, of everyone here is from a Hindu background of some type or another. Even here, of course, Tamil, they regard as being like quite separate, but it's really the same tradition. So you would have heard this mantra that we just chanted a few seconds ago, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Very famous mantra for invoking auspiciousness. And usually it's chanted before some sort of presentation about the Supreme Lord. In technical terms, Om, the famous Om, which, so many, not just Hindus, but people have heard of at least. Om is what is called a Bij mantra in Sanskrit. In Shastra, in the Vedic scriptures, Om is a Bij mantra. And if you know your Hindi, although it's Sanskrit, but if you know your Hindi, Bij means seed. If you're in India and somehow you're going to plant some plants or seeds, you go to the Bij shop. Yes. So it's a Bij mantra. It's not exactly part of the statement of the mantra. In this case, the Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Namo is Namaha, but it's been abbreviated by Sanskrit rules of Sandhi when Aha meets Ba as the first letter of the next word, then Aha becomes O. So it's not, otherwise you say Om Namaha, but we say Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And Aya is in the masculine form, is the suffix meaning two. Vasudev Aya, to Vasudev. And Vasudev is Krishna. Really speaking, precisely speaking, Krishna in Mathura, where he appeared in the prison house of Kamsa. His father was Vasudev. And therefore the tradition is there in Vedic society, not always, but sometimes. The son is given the same name as the father, but where appropriate, where suitable grammatically, then the first syllable in the form that the son has the name, first syllable is lengthened. So the father's Vasudev with a short A, and Krishna is Vasudev with a long A. So there you go, a minor Sanskrit lesson. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So here we go then, reading our verse, second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 3, verse 22. Barhayate te nayane naranam lingani vishnor na narikshato ye pado nrinam to dhruva janma bhajo shetrani na no vrajato hariryo. Very beautiful verse and very beautiful meaning. The eyes which do not look at the symbolic representations of the personality of Godhead, Vishnu, his forms, name, quality, etc., are like those printed on the plumes of the peacock, and the legs which do not move to the holy places where the Lord is remembered, are considered to be like tree trunks. Yes, so that's a really sort of classic verse, reminding us of the great necessity to engage our senses and sense organs and sensory capacities in relation with the Supreme Lord, rather than just looking around the world at whatever's going on, a lot of which unfortunately is really not the best. But we should look at the form of the Lord. Yes. The Supreme Lord, Vishnu. Otherwise, your eyes are like those on a peacock's feather. You know, we've all seen peacocks, or at least peacock fans. And, you know, they've got sort of eyes there, but obviously they don't see anything. They are decorative and a very creative manifestation of the Lord's, not really sense of humor, but just his ability to appreciate beauty. That the tails of peacocks are made like they are. They're really, amongst all the different types of birds, they're really outstanding and unique. And the legs, which a person might use for jogging, which is a good idea actually. We all need some exercise, but if that's the best thing you can do with them, just jog with them, well, it's something, but it's not that much. But if you can use your legs to visit the holy places of the pastimes of the Lord and where the Lord is remembered and the pastimes he has performed in that particular place, then your legs, the verse says, they're really not a lot better than tree trunks. At least they're mobile, but beyond being mobile, not much use. So let us read here from the purport by Srila Prabhupada, which is pretty extensive actually, but I'll just read a part of it. It'll take a few minutes. So Srila Prabhupada says, especially for the householder devotees like Kavir, like Soumya Devi Dasi, Keshav, and Sanera. So especially for the householder devotees, the path of deity worship is strongly recommended. As far as possible, every householder, by the direction of the spiritual master, must install the deity of Vishnu. So this, what we're doing here is going on by the direction of the spiritual master. And particularly in this case, we mean His Holiness Kadambakanana Swami Maharaj, who's not here with us, unfortunately. He's in India. And Soumya Devi Dasi is an initiated disciple of his. So by his direction, this is all going on. I'm just helping out, basically. So, right, as far as possible, every householder, by the direction of the spiritual master, must install the deity of Vishnu. Forms like, some examples, Radha Krishna, Lakshmi Narayan, or Sita Ram especially, or any other form of the Lord, like Nrsimha, Varaha, Gaunitai. In this case, we are installing Gornitai deities, these two deities we just bathed. But then others are mentioned, Matsya, Kurama, Shalagram, Shila, and many other forms of Vishnu, like Trivikram, Keshava, Achyuta, Vasudev, Narayan, and Damodar, as recommended in the Vaishnav Tantras or Puranas. The Vaishnav Tantras are the particular Vedic scriptures. You know, in other religious traditions, generally speaking, they have one scripture. No, that's fine, but that's all they have. In the Vedic tradition, there are so many scriptures. It is a body of scriptures, the Vedic literatures, the four Vedas, Rig, Sama, Yajur, Atharva Vedas, then the what are called the Itihasas, means the historical literatures, particularly Ramayana and Mahabharata. And of course, within Mahabharata is Bhagavad Gita. And then the Puranas. And the Srimad Bhagavatam, which we're reading from, is Puranic. It is the 18th of the last of the Puranas. And there are various other Vedic literatures also. There's the Smriti, they're like social literatures. There is Ayurveda. I think everyone's heard of Ayurveda by now. And that is the traditional Vedic system of medicine. Dhanur Veda is the traditional Vedic system, military system. There are literatures dealing with economics and all sorts of things. So many things. Yeah. So, right. So, but now here, the Vaishnav Tantras, particularly we use the Pancharatra, Narada Pancharatra is Tantric. And Tantric actually means, what Tantric means is Vedic literatures dealing with procedures for worship. I know sometimes in some circles nowadays, Tantras are considered to be, a bit on the sort of sensual level, but really Tantras are dealing with systems of worship. So the Vaishnav Tantras recommend the worship of these different forms of the Lord as we read. So one's family should worship strictly following the directions and regulations of Archana Vidhi. Archana means system of worship. I mean the practical, not just the philosophy of it, but the practical instructions, what to do, how to do, when to do, all these things. And Vidhi means the rules of worship. So, now listen to this, Sonera. I mean, everybody. Any member of the family who is above 12 years of age. I'm looking around. You look like you're 12 years of age or more. Sonera, what's your age? Okay. And how old's Keshav? 13. All right, so let me just read this again. Any member of the family who is above 12 years of age should be initiated by a bona fide spiritual master. And all the members of the household should be engaged in the daily service of the Lord, beginning from morning 4 a.m. till night 10 p.m. by performing Mangala Arti, Niranjana Archana, Puja, Kirtan, Shringar, Bhoga, Vaikali, means offering of food. Sandhya Arti, Pata, means some preaching or reading from scripture should be there. Bhoga at night, another offering at night of food. Shayan Arti, Shayan means to rest. So the arti which is performed when the deities are put to rest at night, etc., because there's quite a bit more if you really want to get into it. So engagement in such worship of the deity under the direction of a bona fide spiritual master will greatly help the householders to purify their very existence and make rapid progress in spiritual knowledge. Simple theoretical book knowledge is not sufficient for a neophyte devotee. Book knowledge is theoretical, whereas the archana process is practical, active, doing different things in worship. And that is the guaranteed way of attainment of spiritual perfection. The training of devotional service for a neophyte devotee completely depends on the expert spiritual master who knows how to lead his disciple to make gradual progress towards the path back home, back to Godhead. So there's more. Actually, there's quite a bit more, but that's sort of, I'd say, the basic idea in a nutshell, but a pretty good nutshell, actually. It's pretty comprehensive. So here, Kavya Prabhu and Soumya Devi Dasi, Keshav, and Sunera also. Now these deities have been welcomed, or we're still in the middle of the process of welcoming, actually, these deities into the home. So, what this really means, strictly speaking, if you really get into the essence of what's going on, what's involved in all of this, is that Kavir Ji and Soumya and Keshav and Sunera, your family is in the process of growing by 2 people right now. And I'm not joking, actually. You might, it sounds a little light-hearted, but it's not. The deity, Prabhupada in the verse, when he translated the verse, he used the terms symbolic representations. I think we all know what that means. Something, it's just a symbol. It's not the thing, it's a symbol or a representation of the real thing. Like a photo of, just whoever, your average person. The person is not present. It's a representation. In the old days, they used to paint paintings, would take quite a while. Now you take a photo and a digital photo, you got it right there, instantaneously, and it can look pretty much exactly like the person. But it's not the person, it's just a symbol. It's just something to remind you, that's all. But now here, even though Prabhupada used the term symbolic representation, he has used this term really just for the digestion, you could say, of people who are not familiar with these things, and even particularly people who are really not familiar with these things, and who are just familiar with symbolic representations, statues, paintings, photos, and all these types of things. But actually the deity, if the deity is just a representation, not real, in other words, but just some symbol, some representation of the reality which is elsewhere, then why on earth do we make such a big thing of it? Why is Prabhupada already just in this purport here, what we read, why is he making a big thing? That it's the whole thing for the whole family. He says from 4 a.m. to 10 p.m. for all the family members with all sorts of different functions and different things to be done if they're just representations. So it's really just for the common man. There are different ways of explaining things to different people according to their capacities to absorb information and digest it. Yes, so Prabhupada chose those terms, but to be honest, having read and heard Prabhupada really quite a lot over the last 50 years, I've never seen him use the term symbolic representation before, at least that I can recall. Yeah, but otherwise, Prabhupada talked a lot about deities, worshipping deities, looking after them, how to treat them, how to see them and interact with them. And it was always very much in the sense that the deity is the person. To someone who's not equipped with such understanding and not engaged in spiritual life, so they don't really have even the capacity to relate with the idea very easily, at least, then okay, symbolic representation. But otherwise, for the devotees, the deity is the person. So, we've all seen statues. You get statues here and there often of historical personalities, people like that. And they're just symbolic representations. They're just that. And, they're often just treated like that. Don't mind me putting it this way, but many of the statues of many of the famous historical personalities, maybe on the birthday of the historical personality, they're all cleaned up, and then there's some ceremony. And, I used to go to Russia. Before COVID, I went a lot. And in every town square, in every village and town, even the little ones, there's still a statue of Lenin. He is all-pervading almost. And on his birthday, at least the old people who were around, before, they do a whole thing and they offer, if you understand the symbolism of it, they offer red flowers at the feet of these statues of Lenin, which are in literally every town square. But the bad news is he's not there. And it's just a representation. And so he is not receiving that, the glorifications. There's some speeches, and then they offer the red flowers. He's not actually aware that, oh, look, see what they're doing? they're saying nice things about me. He wouldn't know at all. Yeah, because he's not present. He's not a transcendental person, a real spiritual person, as is God. He is fully spiritual, the Supreme Lord. So in the case of God, his form and himself are the same. Means even his picture. You see this beautiful photograph at the back here? Don't mind me saying, but taken by myself. It's all right. Being a sort of pretty experienced photographer, actually. But anyway, even just, so to speak, quote unquote, just a photo of the deities in our temple in Chatsworth, Radha, actually, they're there. They're present. And they're actually watching you. And I'm sure, I don't want to put words in their mouths. I mean, who am I to do something like that? But I think they are looking at you all and thinking, okay, who are these people? What are they doing? What are they going to do? And are they devotees? Well, the very good news is yes. Yeah. So, but they're present, that's my point. And therefore the deity is treated as a person. So therefore, when I said that the family here has just grown by 2 people, I really was not joking, actually. It's a fact. And they're not just another 2 people like, so many parents, they have 2 children. I assume you have 2 children. Some number have 3. Some have 4. 5, 6. I mean, it's a little unusual when you get up to 5 or 6. But, there's so many families who do. When I was a child, or when I was young, I was born and raised in New Zealand, and one of our neighbors, not next door, but a few houses away, they had, would you believe, fasten your seatbelts, 15 children. No joking at all. And we would go and visit them occasionally, not often, but we did visit them. And whenever we go there, it was mayhem. I mean, it was just amazing, actually. On one side, 2 of the children were killing each other. On the other side, another 2 were screaming at each other, etc. So anyway, so your family is now a 6-person family. And with the deities, they are persons. They are the Supreme Person. And they must be treated, they need to be treated in that way. Now, there are different levels of or standards for the worship of deities at home. When deities are installed formally, which is a much more involved procedure actually, in a temple, like I mentioned, where Radharanath are in Chatsworth, I'm sure many of you have been there. So they are worshipped. The standard of worship is very high. Their clothes are changed twice a day. They're bathed every day. They receive 6 meals a day. 6. Here, of course, in our temple, not so far from here in Maritzburg, Dal Nitai Gora Hari. I'm not sure how many Boga offerings they receive. How many do they receive? Is it 2? Okay. So really, and I mean it, only 2. But in the more established and substantial temples, 6 food offerings. And really like complex meals offered to them. If we, mere humans, tried to eat those 6 meals, we wouldn't last long. Our cholesterol levels would go through the roof. Even if you've got a multi-story building, they go right through the roof. And I don't think we'd survive, really. Yeah. But Krishna is God. For him to digest any amount of food, it's not a problem. And anyway, there's so many things I can say. There's really a lot I can say, but in terms of standard, let us say, an acceptable standard beneath which it becomes not really acceptable is that the deities are bathed and dressed once a week and fed twice a day and offered arti once a day. The general understanding is if somehow or other the level goes beneath that, they may walk out. They may even walk out physically. Yeah. But it's just not acceptable because this is God. And if you can do more, do more. But whatever you're going to do, try and do it regularly because the Lord is present. You are dealing with the Supreme Personality of Godhead directly and even handling him with your hands. Yes, like that. So, it's a serious undertaking. I know in Hinduism, sort of like general popular Hinduism, there are so many temples around, and I've been in so many, I couldn't tell you how many hundreds, like particularly in India, all over India, from north to south and east to west. And in many of those temples, the deities are not treated so nicely. I remember a group of us in England. I was in England for 7 years, and we were traveling around England distributing Prabhupada's books, and we stayed in some different Hindu temples as we're traveling around. They very kindly let us. But in one temple, I'll never forget, it was in Coventry, which is in the Midlands of England. We were staying there. It was a Gujarati temple, and the priest was from Gujarat. And every day, early in the morning, we'd be in the temple room, we'd be chanting on our beads in front of their altar. And on the altar were Radha and Krishna and various other personalities. And the priest, every morning, he would offer sugar candy, in lumps, you know what I mean? Sugar candy and peanuts together. And every day he would, after the offering, give us a few peanuts and this mishri, sugar candy. And one day I looked as he came around with the plate, which was the same plate which had been on the altar. I recognized devotees, believe it or not. I recognized a few of the pieces of sugar candy. I mean, their shapes. And I understood he's offering the same sugar candy and peanuts every day. Hare Krishna. I mean, talk about leftovers. I mean, it is, but you can't then go back and offer them again. It's just not on. Really, I mean, it's just not respectful for an important person to do like that. So therefore, it really is quite a responsibility to have deities at home and to look after them at least to the minimum standard. You know, my telepathic powers are not working today. That's a joke, by the way. So I don't know if the deities are ready or not. Oh, they're doing the offering. So someone must just alert me. Okay, but no, someone must just alert me. Thank you. Right, so there we were. They're doing an offering, food offering, boga offering, as we said. And shortly that boga will be prasad, which literally means the mercy of the Lord. So sometimes we give an example. Some of you may have heard it before. I've used it on numerous occasions now. That you have husband and wife at home, and the husband goes to work, and the wife prepares the meals, sort of traditional situation, you could say. So one morning before the husband leaves, just after breakfast, the wife asked, what would you like for dinner tonight, evening meal? So the husband may say, you know, something. I'll have beans, curry, and rice. How's that? You can't be more South African Indian than that. Gadra. No. Anyway, some beans and rice. Okay. And salad. Anyway, that's fine. That's nice. Yeah, so he says, that's what I'd like. And she says, fine, okay, I'll do it. So now he goes to work. And he's one of these good husbands who on his desk at work, he has a photo of his wife. Do we have similar husbands? Anyway, I will not ask, but he's one of those husbands. Yeah, he keeps a photo of his wife on his desk to remind him. Now, this day though, devotees and friends, listen to this. This is crucial. This day, he's there, the husband's there in the office and he's doing his work, and he thinks, wait a minute, you know, beans and rice and salad, I have that regularly. I want something different. So he doesn't call his wife. He just looks at the picture and he speaks to the picture. Like here, if we speak to the picture, they hear us loud and clear. Even as you don't even speak, you just think, they hear you loud and clear. So anyway, this husband, he speaks to the picture of his wife and he says, you know, I've had enough beans, curry and rice for the time being, so let's take a break from that. And can you make for me, how about, devotees and friends, what do you think? Some butter paneer and puris. Sounds pretty good, doesn't it? Some butter paneer and puris, and maybe a few samosas, sweet corn and paneer. And yeah, can you make that for me? Speaking to the picture. So now, you know, the problem is she's not present there. So she doesn't hear him. So he goes home at night and take a guess what he gets for supper? Take a wild guess. He gets beans, curry, and rice, and salad. And disappointed, he says to his wife, but wait a minute, I thought I informed you during the day. I wanted butter paneer, etc. And she just looks at him like, what? You didn't phone me? Hey, you never told me anything. Because she's not in her picture, but the Supreme Lord is in his picture and in his deity form. And generally not with the sort of regular devotees like ourselves, but definitely with great, very advanced, elevated devotees. Not only does the deity hear, but sometimes the deity speaks. And there are many accounts of that happening with great devotees. Yes. So the deity, the person is actually there. And therefore, the deity must be treated very personally, not just as a thing, like a nice thing is even, but still a thing. The deities must be treated as persons, and then if if the family members do that, then they will get reciprocation from the deity. Maybe sometimes in very subtle ways. You can't really tell how something happened, but actually it's something extraordinary happened. And a devotee will understand, oh, the hand of the Lord was present behind that. It wasn't just some accident or something of that sort. And so many things happen with our devotees who have deities at home. Of course, the family members seem to be elsewhere, otherwise engaged. But, if a garland is on the deity and the garland falls off, it's taken to be an auspicious sign. And in many cases, it's taken to be a confirmation of what you were thinking at the time. If some jewelry falls off the deity, it's taken to be inauspicious. Yes. In the Vedic tradition, there's a whole science of omens, auspicious and inauspicious indications from different phenomena. So, the deity reciprocates with the devotees. You may think this sounds a little too fantastic, but in our main temple in England, just outside London, the deity is very, very similar, Radha Gokulananda. And after a while, the devotees have many sets of clothes, like you can see here, and very elaborate sets of clothes. But after a while, they found the clothes had become too small. No kidding. And they had not washed the clothes, exactly to have them shrink, if they were cotton, for example. So they took it as the hand of the Lord, or the stomach of the Lord, I guess, the waist of the Lord. So if the deities are looked after nicely, Krishna is very, what would you say? Some people are proactive. You familiar with that term? They just initiate things like relationships. Rather than wait for you to walk up to them and introduce yourself, they'll walk up to you and introduce themselves. That's proactive, as opposed to reactive, that you would wait for, in that case, someone to walk up to you and then you'd get into a relationship. So the deity is more often than not, he's proactive, but more often than not, reactive in terms of how the deity is being served by the devotees. And when the deity is being served very nicely by the devotees, he reciprocates in all sorts of ways, actually. Yes, so here we are, and in a minute or two, the deities will come out. Oh, and one other part of this program which was not mentioned to all of you is that there is a recording from Kadambakanana Swami himself in which he announces the particular name that these deities will have. Just like in the big picture here, Radha, Radhanath. Not just Radha Krishna. And in the temple I mentioned in England, Radha Gokulananda. So the deities have like very personal, specific names. So that recording, as I understand, is going to be played momentarily, when the deities have arrived, but before the arati. Am I right?
Yes.
Yes, good. So we will learn what their personal names will be. In a broad sense, they're Gaur Nitai, Lord Gora, Lord Nitai. But every set of Gaur Nitai deities has their personal, specific names. So they will have. So there you go, devotees. These are some thoughts and some points about deities. And as I read right at the beginning there, the beginning of the purport, let me just locate it. Prabhupada said that as far as possible, every householder, by the direction of the spiritual master, must install some deity or other at home, which then the family members should or can be engaged in the program of worship of. I remember when I was living in our temple in central London, right in the heart, at night, some of the ladies who are residents of the temple would gather and sing for the deity at night, sort of like Sanskrit lullabies, if you know what I mean. Yeah, very personal. They did. Every night they'd gather there and sing these soft, sweet songs. Really, really nice. Very personal. Like actually in not so many, but some of the very poor households in India, the only light bulb in the house is over the altar. It's the only light bulb in the house. Otherwise, they use candles and things like that. This is personal. Okay. Oh, am I meant to? I'm meant to read it out. So I shouldn't read it out.
Not yet, when they come.
Okay. So let's stand up, everyone.
Hare Krishna. So you may be seated to listen to this message by His Holiness Kadambakana Swami Maharaj, which is 2 minutes 25 seconds. And thereafter the Artik will be performed.
Dear devotees, it is a great pleasure to be with you today on the occasion of the installation of the deities of Sri Sri Gauranitai in the house of Soumya Devi Dasi. A ceremony that will be presided over by His Holiness Bhakti Chaitanya Swami Maharaj himself. So the event is certainly most auspicious. I'm happy to, in this way, of a small message, to at least be present with you all a little bit and to just do a little seva to the lotus feet of the deities and the Vaishnavas. So, From this day on, the deities will be known as Sisi Nitai Gaur Prema Sukhananda.
Haribo!
Sisi Nitai Gaur Prema Sukhananda ki
Jai!
Sisi Nitai Gaur Prema Sukhananda ki
Jai!
So, Nitai Gaur, of course, referring to Lord Nityananda, Lord Chaitanya, the golden avatar, and always absorbed in prema, in deep love of God, and therefore overwhelmed by great blissful happiness, sukha, happiness, and ananda, bliss. So, in this way, these blissful lords will bless the entire home and all the visitors that will come, and will bring strength and happiness into the life of Soumya. Hare Krishna. All my best wishes to all of you.
His Holiness Kadambakana Swami Maharaj ki.
Shri Nitai Gaur Prema Sukhananda ki.
Jai! Shri Nitai Gaur Prema Sukhananda ki. Jai! So thank you very much to our spiritual masters. The deities are certainly looking very, very beautiful, and now we will perform the Arctic ceremony. And let us offer our respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Lordships. Vande Guru Nisha Bhaktan Isha Isha Avatarakam Tat Prakashamscha Tat Shakti Krishna Chaitanya Samgakam. Vande Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Sahodito Godadaya Pushpavanto Chitra Sandal Tamonuda.
Do we have a bell? Okay, we got a bell. Do we have a fan? Namo Krishna Varaya Krishna Vishnaya Bhutale Shivati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nityayana. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Viveshesha Shunyavani Asya Charisya Tarine. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Jaya Vira Gadara
Sari Gora Bhaktarina. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Chant everyone. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Nitai Goranga, Nitai Goranga. Nitai Goranga, Nitai Goranga. Nitai Goranga, Gora Hari. Nitai Goranga, Gora Hari.
Hare Krishna. Sorry to cut short the ecstasy, but it'll happen again just now. So everybody is invited to offer a lamp. They're being lit now. And then Aditi has the Achaman cup. So you come up here, you purify your hands, and they will hand you a lamp, and you can offer it to the deities. All right? And then while Kirtan starts again, they will make an arrangement where you can leave your offered lamp.
Organize it now. One time.